My wife drained our savings, moved out while I was at work, and left a note on the counter that said, "Maybe if you acted like a man, I wouldn't have had to find one." She also made sure people heard her version first, so by the time I called anyone, I was already the joke. She laughed when I cried, and she never once sounded sorry. Here's how it happened. My name is Bobby. I'm from Houston, and for years I thought love meant carrying the whole house on your back and calling it partnership, even when your knees started to shake. When I met Tasha at a friend's cookout in 3rd Ward, she was all sunlight and sharp jokes. She wore gold hoop earrings and roasted me for burning the hot dogs before she even asked my name. I remember laughing so hard I dropped the tongs. She told me, "You can't grill, but you smile nice." I told her, "Good, because I got other skills." Everybody laughed, and she gave me that sideways grin that made me feel chosen. We spent the rest of the evening arguing over music, line dancing badly, and pretending neither of us was paying close attention to the other. Back then, I worked maintenance at an apartment complex near Midtown and picked up weekend shifts driving deliveries. It wasn't glamorous, but I stayed moving. Tasha was a medical receptionist and always looked put together, even on little sleep. Our early dates were cheap and sweet, late-night tacos on Richmond, movies at home, and long drives with old R&B playing low while we talked about who we used to be. She said she wanted peace, loyalty, and a man who wouldn't embarrass her. I said I wanted a family and a woman who felt like home. We both sounded honest, and maybe at the time we were. The funny part of our beginning was how clumsy we were with romance. On our 3rd date, I tried to impress her by cooking steak in my apartment and set off the smoke alarm so loud the upstairs neighbor came down mad in house shoes. Tasha laughed so hard she slid off the couch and said, "Bobby, if I marry you, we are buying a grill and a fire extinguisher." I told her she could have both if she promised not to tell anybody. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Too late, I'm telling everybody." Somehow, even her teasing felt gentle then. It felt like belonging. We got married at a small church in Southwest Houston with folding chairs, live flowers from her auntie's backyard, and a DJ who kept playing the clean version of songs nobody wanted clean. My suit sleeves were too short, and Tasha's little nephew fell asleep during the vows with a chicken wing in his hand. We laughed through half the ceremony. That day felt real in the way simple things do. We danced to Maze, cut a cake leaning to one side, and left with $57 in gift envelopes and enough joy to make up the difference. I thought we were starting humble and strong. The first 2 years were hard but good. We rented a 1-bedroom in Aliff and planned everything like a team. I worked extra hours, and she tracked our bills in a little notebook with color tabs. We'd sit at the kitchen table and dream out loud. House, maybe a baby one day, maybe a little beauty suite for her if she got tired of the front desk. Some nights we were too broke for dates, so we made a game out of leftovers. She'd call herself Chef Tasha, plate ramen like a 5-star meal, and make me rank it. I always said 10, and she'd bow. Little changes came slow, the way a leak starts quiet before your ceiling caves in. Tasha began spending more, first on clothes for work, then hair, then just because I deserved nice things. I didn't argue much because I knew she worked hard and because I hated sounding like money was more important than peace. She stopped using the budget notebook and said it stressed her out. We switched to a joint account to make things easier. I started picking up more overtime to cover the gaps. She thanked me less, and I noticed, but I told myself marriage had seasons and this was just one. Then came the disrespect wrapped in jokes. If I came home tired, she'd say, "Look at my hard-working little tenant," because my name wasn't on any property yet. If I forgot something at the store, she'd tell her cousins, "Bobby's sweet, but he's slow." At first I laughed along because I didn't want to look sensitive. In black families, everybody jokes, and I know that. But this felt different. Her words started landing with an edge. She corrected me in front of people, rolled her eyes when I talked, and once told me at a birthday dinner, "Don't act important. You just fix people's toilets." I still loved her, so I did what a lot of men do when love turns mean. I worked harder. I told myself if I made more money, she'd relax. If I got us ahead, she'd respect me again. I started stacking every spare dollar, skipping lunch, fixing my own work boots with glue instead of buying new ones, and hiding cash in a savings account I opened for our future. I didn't hide it from her exactly. She knew it existed. I just never said the amount. It became my quiet mission. House money. Emergency money. Proof that all this sacrifice was leading somewhere, even if home felt colder. Around year 4, Tasha started staying out later. At first she blamed girls' nights, then work events, then traffic. Houston traffic is believable, so she got a lot of mileage out of that lie. She'd come home smelling like expensive cologne and sweet liquor, phone face down, attitude already loaded. If I asked a simple question, she'd say I was insecure. One night I asked if she still wanted this marriage, and she laughed in my face and said, "I want a husband. Bubby, I just don't know if you qualify anymore." I remember standing there in my socks, holding a grocery bag, feeling stupid for still trying to talk soft. The humiliation got cruel. At her cousin Keisha's game night in Missouri City, everybody was drinking and talking loud. Tasha started clowning me in front of the whole room, saying I was all work and no results, saying a man should be able to give his wife more than rent and sermons. People laughed because she was funny, and because crowds get brave when the target is quiet. I tried to smile it off, but then she said, "If a better option comes, I'm not doing struggle love forever." The room got weird for 1 second, then somebody changed the subject. I drove us home in silence, hands shaking. I should have left then. That's the truth. But love and shame can chain you to the same chair. The next morning she acted normal, made eggs, and kissed me on the forehead like she hadn't cut me open the night before. I wanted to bring it up, but I was tired of being told I was too emotional. So I swallowed it. We had a really good weekend after that. We went to Galveston, walked the seawall, and ate fried shrimp under a striped umbrella while she rested her head on my shoulder. For a few hours she was my wife again, and I let hope fool me. Looking back, that trip was probably guilt, not love. She took selfies all day but barely posted any with me. She smiled hard for the camera, then went flat the second the phone dropped. Still, I held on to little moments. That night in the motel, the AC rattled like an old truck and the TV remote barely worked. We laughed trying to swat a mosquito the size of a drone. Tasha climbed on the bed and yelped, "Bubby, if that thing carries me off, tell my mama I fought." I laughed so hard I cried. It hurts now remembering how easy joy used to feel. A few weeks later, the real truth cracked open. I was at work when one of the younger guys, Dre, asked me if everything was straight at home. I said yeah. Why? He looked uncomfortable and showed me a picture somebody posted from a lounge near Washington Avenue. Tasha was in it, sitting close to a man in a designer shirt, his hand low on her waist, both of them smiling like they shared a secret. The caption said, "Soft life only." My chest went cold. I stayed at that picture until the edges blurred. I still finished my shift before I went home. Pride is a strange disease. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She leaned against the counter, arms folded, and said his name was Marcus and he understood ambition. I asked if she was sleeping with him. She said, "Don't ask questions you can't handle the answer to." I asked if she wanted a divorce. She said she wanted me to stop acting like a victim. Then she told me Marcus took her to places I couldn't afford and made her feel seen. I was standing there in my work uniform, grease on my cuff, listening to my own wife compare me to another man like I was a broken appliance she was replacing. Even after that, I tried to save it. That part embarrasses me, but it's true. I asked for counseling. She said no. I asked if we could separate and figure things out with respect. She laughed and said respect should have come with money. I slept on the couch while she talked on the phone in our bedroom, giggling like she was 16. One night I heard her say, loud enough for me to hear, "He ain't going nowhere. Bubby too loyal." I learned then that some people don't just leave you. They test how much pain you'll accept first. The answer, in my case, was too much. The day she left started ordinary. I worked a double shift because a coworker called out. I came home around 10 p.m., shoulders aching, already thinking about leftovers and a shower. Half the apartment was empty. Living room lamp gone. TV gone. Her clothes gone. Even the air fryer my mama bought us was gone. On the kitchen counter was that note, written neat like a grocery list. She said she was done, said she took what she deserved, said maybe this humiliation would motivate me. I ran to the bedroom and found my lockbox open. The savings account app showed transfer after transfer. Years of work, gone. I called her over and over until she answered. Music was loud behind her. I could hear people laughing. I said, "Tasha, please, that money was everything." She laughed, not a little laugh, a full one, and said, "Then maybe you should have protected it better." I asked how she could do this. She said, "Because I can." Then she hung up. I sat on the floor and cried so hard I threw up in the bathroom sink. I called my brother for help, and he said he had already heard what happened, and maybe I should give her space. She had told everybody I was controlling and broke. I was alone fast. The next week was a blur of humiliation. Her cousins posted slick little quotes online about choosing yourself and leaving dusty men. Friends I had loaned money to stopped answering. At work, I kept my head down, but word got around because Houston can be one neighborhood with highways. My landlord gave me a notice because rent bounced after the account got drained. I sold my tools, then bought back the ones I needed most. I slept maybe 2 hours a night and replayed every insult she'd thrown at me, wondering which one should have finally made me walk. Grief and shame took turns driving, and neither one slept. I ended up sleeping in my car in Pearland for a while after I couldn't cover the new deposit anywhere decent. It was summer, so the heat sat on me like punishment. I parked near a 24-hour gym, showered there before work, and kept my clothes folded in plastic bins. The first night, I tried to recline the seat and my back cramped so bad I laughed and cursed at the same time. "Lord," I said out loud, "I know I've made mistakes, but this feels personal." An older man in the next car looked over and said, "If you're talking to God, tell him my AC broke too." We both laughed. That laugh kept me from breaking. I started noticing little mercies. The lady at the gas station on Broadway gave me free coffee when she saw me every morning. A barber in Sunnyside let me sweep up for a discount cut so I could still look presentable at work. My supervisor, Mr. Leonard, didn't ask nosy questions, but one evening he handed me a card for a commercial HVAC certification program in Pasadena and said, "Maintenance is fine. Skills pay better. Don't die where you got dropped." It was the most kindness I'd heard in months. I enrolled with money I really didn't have and refused to quit. Those classes nearly buried me. I worked days, studied nights, and slept in parking lots or on a folding cot at Mr. Leonard's brother's shop when he had space. I failed one refrigeration exam by 2 points and sat in my car staring at the paper like it had insulted my memoir. Then I signed up and took it again. I ate cheap, stayed quiet, and stopped checking Tasha's social media after it wrecked me one too many times. Once, at 2 a.m., I was elbow-deep in practice wiring and caught myself smiling because I understood something that confused me before. It felt like my brain was returning home. Over time, my life got smaller and stronger. I didn't chase closure. I didn't call people back to explain what really happened. I learned who could sit with me in silence and who only liked me when I was useful. On Sundays, I'd drive to Beaumont for contract jobs nobody wanted because the pay was better and the hours were ugly. I kept a notebook again, just like the old days, only this one was mine. Every dollar got a job. Every week had a target. I started a tiny LLC with a borrowed filing fee and a name so plain nobody would notice it. I liked it that way. There were still hard nights. I'd pass a restaurant we used to go to and feel my throat tighten. I'd hear a song from our wedding and have to pull over. Healing wasn't clean, but funny kept sneaking in. One evening in Lake Charles, a customer's parrot kept cussing at me while I fixed their unit. Every time I climbed the ladder, that bird yelled, "Boy, you wrong." I laughed so hard I almost dropped my wrench. The customer, an elderly black woman in a pink robe, fed me gumbo after and said, "Pain don't leave quick, baby, but it gets tired eventually." I carried that line with me. By the third year, the comeback had shape. I had steady commercial contracts, a used truck I paid off early, and enough savings, real savings this time, in accounts no one touched but me. I rented a clean duplex in Missouri City with a little patch of grass and a creaky porch chair I loved. No luxury, no flexing, just peace. I bought decent cookware and finally learned to make a steak without smoke alarms. On Friday nights, I'd sit on that porch, eat, and listen to the neighborhood settle down. I thought about how loud my old life was, how chaos had once felt like passion. It didn't anymore. The romantic part of my life returned quiet too. I met Nia at a bookstore cafe in Sugarland when she laughed at me for standing in the poetry aisle pretending to understand a book I clearly did not understand. I told her I was trying to look deep. She said, "You look confused." We started talking and ended up sharing coffee for 2 hours. Nia was a middle school counselor, soft-spoken but sharp, with a laugh that came easy and never cut. I told her early that I was not in a rush and had some dents. She said, "Me too. We can still drive careful." Being with Nia taught me what respect feels like when it isn't performative. She didn't make me prove my worth every day. She asked how my jobs went and actually listened, even when I rambled about compressors. Once she came by while I was trying to assemble a patio table and reading the instructions upside down. She stood there smiling and said, "Bobby, if you build vac systems this way, Houston is in trouble." We laughed, fixed it together, and ate takeout on the floor because the table still leaned. It was simple, but I noticed I wasn't bracing for humiliation anymore. My body finally believed I was safe. Karma showed up the way it usually does, without drums, just consequences. I heard about Tasha through Keisha's husband at a supply house, of all places. Marcus, the man she left with, got indicted in a fraud case tied to fake business loans. Tasha wasn't charged, but she had signed for a leased car and utilities in her name while he was building his empire. When the money froze, everything landed on her credit. The apartment got evicted. The car got repossessed from a gas station lot. Marcus disappeared on her before court dates even finished. Same smile, same selfishness, different victim. She still never apologized. A few weeks later, my brother called sounding awkward. He said Tasha had been asking around, trying to get my number, wanting to check on me and maybe talk like adults. I laughed for the first time at her name and told him adults don't rub each other first. He went quiet, then admitted he should have believed me years ago. I forgave him, but I didn't reopen the door. Word traveled back to her anyway that I was doing well, had my own business, and had bought property. I didn't post anything. I didn't send messages. She just learned the truth the same way I learned hers, through whispers. I never got an apology, and I stopped needing one. Tasha stayed who she was, proud, blaming, unrepentant. Karma didn't make her kind. It just made her face the kind of instability she used to laugh at me for surviving. My life now is private, steady, and full in a way younger me couldn't recognize. I still work hard, but I sleep peaceful. I cook better. I love slower. The moral, if there is one, is this: don't let humiliation convince you you're worthless, and don't chase revenge when rebuilding will cut deeper. Some people don't learn from hurting you. Let consequences teach them while you keep growing. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.